Did you know that the Mad King Thorn killed his own brother and father so he could become the king of Kryta? Oh yeah, this devious prankster's history is dark, and it gets even worse. The Mad King Thorn was known in life as Prince Oswald Thorn, the second son of a Krytan king. Ever since he was young, Oswald always had a tendency to pull pranks and tell jokes, sometimes perhaps taking it a bit too far. When he was still a young monarch, his family had visitors from Alona, where young Oswald Thorn met with Palawa Joko, the visiting diplomat's son. Palawa Joko found Oswald ripping out the wings of captured flies. The Alonan son ridiculed young Oswald, teaching him that subjects perform better with the right amount of sadism, and taught him the right amount of torture creatures would survive still. The young Oswald in his turn challenged Palawa Joko to a pun contest, one of the first battles to take place between the future Lich King and the Mad King. After Joko's visit, Oswald started putting the new lessons to the test, which ended up killing both Serene and Samson, friends of Oswald's brother. Serene Brody got trampled to death by her own horse after Oswald fed it hot peppers, while Samson was abandoned to die, as Oswald took him to play too close to the giant worm mounds, and then fled. Also during his younger years, Oswald started to show a strong command of magic, and his will alone was enough to make him a dangerous foe. As he was the second son, his older brother and much more beloved Ewan Thorn was actually set to rule as king. So, the Mad King not only murdered his older brother, but also took his betrothed, Lady Lyrica, for himself, before killing his father as well, so he could claim the throne. He later had Lady Lyrica assassinated. As he grew bored of her, his first act as King of Kryta was to execute Lord Humphrey Farron. The Lord had accused the king of murdering his father, and after the execution, the Mad King doubled down on his ruthless actions, saying that every traitor would meet the same fate unquestioned. Famine, drought, and high taxes drove the citizens to starvation and theft. King Thorn had all citizens who were even suspected of stealing rounded up and cut off their hands. While traveling to the Isle of Istan, Oswald became infatuated with the Princess Zola and tried to woo her. He was, however, unsuccessful. His advances denied, the Mad King resorted to kidnapping the princess's father and ransom his freedom for her hand in marriage. He burned Zola alive, however, as he grew tired of her as well, sparking a war between Kryta and Istan, a war which Krytan would eventually win. 8 wives in total during his reign as king, and all of them met an untimely death. Estrella, for example, was killed by Oswald when he put her in a coffin full of rats and dumped it into the sea. Henrietta, however, was killed by Oswald's heir, Prince Edric Thorn. Edric's mother was beheaded by Oswald on his son's birthday. The Mad King always viewed his son as a disappointment, and after a failed coup attempt, the Mad King stuffed his son's mouth with candy corn and locked him in the shell of insanity, a form of coffin. The Councillor Dribbin cast a spell on the coffin so that everyone who touched the shell would have their life drained from them. After the spell was done, Oswald killed the Councillor as well, so none would be left alive that knew of Edric's fate. Around 825 AE, an angry mob stormed the Castle Thorn and ended the Mad King's reign. Afraid that the king would use his magic to return to Tyria, the mob cut his body in parts and sealed away each one in a different box, burying it across the continents. Although he was unable to return to Tyria, the Mad King did rise to notoriety within the underworld. He conquered the realm for himself and ruled there once again as a Mad King. Around 1072 AE, the underworld was attacked by Doom, the former god of death, after Grenth had usurped his rule. As discussed in my lore video on the gods, Thorn knew that this would cause trouble for his coveted place as the Mad King in his own little realm, and he actually sent his steward to find an elemental king that served Grenth as well as Grenth's lieutenants, the 7 Reapers, to aid in the battle against Doom's army. Even mortals were allowed into the underworld then. After breaking free from his bindings, as every death in the underworld only served to strengthen Doom, the latter was finally again imprisoned by the 7 Reapers, the mortal adventurers, and the Mad King Thorn's subjects. Then, a few years later, in 1079 AE, the Ascension of Queen Salma weakened one of Thorn's bonds, ultimately destroying it. Encouraged by this, the lunatic court, Thorn's followers, set about to find and destroy the remaining seals, which would allow the Mad King to return to Tyria as powerful as he was in the Mad Realm. Thorn's courtiers tried to sway the ghost of Zola, as they wanted their king to have a wife when he returned to Tyria, but also to act as a beacon for King Thorn's soul. Zola agreed to come, but only so she could kill the Mad King herself once again. It never got to this, however, as the Lunatic Court's ritual failed, bringing back not the Mad King himself, but instead his loyal steed, Mr. Gumdrops. The Mad King's arch-rival, Joko, attempted to hunt down the returned pony, but was unsuccessful, as the steed was only visible to King Thorn himself. After the court's failure, the Mad King's influence wasn't felt for a long time, and in the next 2 centuries, his story would become a folk legend, a tale to scare the children with. Then, in 1325 AE, however, he made a grand return, shattering the Grand Piazza in Lion's Arch, assaulting the citizens with insidious pranks and terrible jokes while he attempted to break free completely. An Azuran member of the Dermot Priory stood defiantly against his resurgence, and together with mortal heroes who dove into the Mad Realm itself to fight the Mad King, defeating him in his own game as well as in battle, them and Magister Tassi managed to keep him at bay. Despite his defeat in battle, the Mad King returns every year, though resorts only to play less lethal pranks on the citizens now, and play the game of Your Mad King Says. Heroes adventuring into the Mad Realm can fight King Thorn's Candy Corn army in the Mad King's Labyrinth, and will sometimes see Prince Edric argue with his father about his death, after the former's failed attempt to break free as well. Or can witness the centuries-old rivalry between the Mad King and Joko. So, as innocent and jolly the Mad King may seem, he truly was a terror in life, to subject and wife. If you enjoyed this lore video, don't forget to boom that like button and subscribe for more. As always though, take care and bye bye.